Good afternoon, everyone. Horrible. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Good afternoon, and welcome to the 5,682nd meeting of the Rotary Club of Chicago. My name is Alita Williams, and I'm the president of the club, and we will convene this meeting. And as you can see, we have wonderful decorations on our table today celebrating Diwali. And so, with that, Neetha Nagmati on Zoom is going to do our thought of the day and give us some history.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thanks, Alita, for honoring this day. Today is actually the fifth day of the celebration. Here, I'm going to read a little bit of this history. So historically, Diwali can be traced back to ancient India, which most likely began as a harvest festival, like other festivals in India. It falls on the 15th day of the month of Kartik, the darkest night of the year. It's believed that on this day that Lord Ram and Mother Sita and his brother Lakshman returned to Ayodhya after their 14-day exile and victory over Ravana, the monarch of Lanka, so modern day Sri Lanka. It symbolizes the victory of good over evil, light over darkness, knowledge over ignorance. People decorate their homes with lights, flowers, and rangoli, some of that you see there. And then wear new clothes, exchange gifts. Special prayers are offered to Goddess Lakshmi for prosperity. Diya, the clay lamps, are lit to signify hope and light's victory. So here are a couple of the quotes around Diwali. The lights of Diwali festival bring brightness to our lives and remind us of the inner light that's always burning inside us. And you can't celebrate the festival of light before combating the darkness within. And it usually marks the beginning of a new year also too. Diwali is about setting goals, not accumulating gold, as Lakshmi comes from Lakshya, meaning goal. It's celebrated over the 5 days, and as I mentioned, this is the fifth day. Day one is Dhanteras. It marks the beginning of the Diwali festival. People worship Goddess Lakshmi on this day, purchase new items to bring wealth and prosperity. The second day is called Choti Diwali, or Naraka Chaturdashi, celebrated the second day. It's honoring Lord Krishna's triumph over the demonic Narakasura. Diwali, the midday, midweek is the third day, and it was celebrated on Sunday this year. It is the main festival day. People light up the lamps all over, and you see more of that throughout. And then day four is the day following this main midweek celebration, where they do the Govardhan Puja and worshiping Lord Krishna. And then today is the fifth day. It's the last day, and it's known as Bhai Dooj, and it honors the relationship between brothers and sisters. So may the Diya's light lead you to the road of growth and prosperity, and wish everybody a very happy and prosperous Deepavali or Diwali. So Deepavali is the name of it in the south, where actually my family is from. Thanks, Alita, and happy Diwali, everybody.
Thank you, Neetha, so much for that. Okay, so with that, we will do our best to get to all questions. Please honor everyone's time in keeping questions one per person and succinct. And then for those on the Zoom, if you have questions, if you would please put them into the chat and we will get to those questions after we get to the questions in the room. And with that, I bring up Robert Westrop to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Alita, and good afternoon to everyone. It's my great pleasure to introduce our speaker today. Jane Mentzinger is the CEO of Community and Schools of Chicago. I've been a fan and a supporter of Jane and her organization for over 15 years, and the great work they do to augment, supplement, and make life better for the students in the Chicago public school system. I'll just give you an anecdotal story Jane told me years ago when I first met her. Think about a young student, maybe in kindergarten or first grade, that doesn't have perfect eyesight. What do you think it does to their ability to learn how to read and their literacy? Well, Jane told me about a program that they did, like many of their programs, that they did with lens crafters, where they brought in the lens crafters vans to come into different schools and check the eyesight of these children, just to make sure that their ability to read wasn't diminished by something that their parents didn't have the ability to find out because of the neighborhood or the wealth that they had. During the pandemic, Jane and an organization were at ground zero for the things that were going on and are now helping schools get through that and transition to a new position. Jane spent her whole career in public service. After graduating from Princeton, she was a Common Cause as a senior advocate for a nonpartisan policy organization. But it was inevitable that she was going to be drawn back to Chicago because her senior thesis was on improving the educational system in Chicago. So please welcome Jane Mentzinger.
Great, thanks so much. It's really fun to be here today. Thank you, Bob, for that nice introduction. I want to start and share a little bit about Communities in Schools and tell you who we are and what we do. Is that okay? Okay.
This is your slide advance.
Oh, this is my slide of answer. Okay. No, I got that. Okay. Communities in Schools of Chicago is a nonprofit organization that, as Bob said, helps Chicago public school students maximize their potential and stay on the path to graduation life success. I really appreciate the opportunity to tell the story of our organization, which we call CIS. So I'll refer to us sometimes as CIS for shorthand. In this amazing historic building, when I came in, I was looking at the Union League Club and all the people that have come through these doors, and that's fabulous. I want to say how excited I am to come to Rotary One, and I really appreciate that. And also, I think one thing that we have in common of many things between Rotary and CIS is the origin story. And Rotary Club's origin story, I think, is one of the most powerful origin stories of any nonprofit out there. I was driving into the city this morning to come down here, and I live in Evanston, so I'm very familiar with Rotary because it's such an important part of the Evanston community too. And I was thinking about, after I did a little research, thinking about how Rotary One was founded with the powerful vision of Paul Harris. And now here you are 100 years later with millions of members and thousands of clubs all across the globe. And I like to share a little bit about our origin story. And the distinguished gentleman on the far right in this slide, pictured with some of the members of our awesome CIS of Chicago team, is Bill Milliken. And he came to visit us last month, and it was a huge treat for me to get to spend time with Bill. You don't often have an opportunity to spend time with your real life hero, and he is one of my real life heroes. And Bill, in his own words, was a wayward youth. I think if we could say that. He was headed in the wrong direction growing up in a tough part of Pittsburgh in the 1950s. He had friends that were locked up or had died young. Some were addicted to drugs. And a turning point came in 1960 for Bill when he joined Young Life, which is an ecumenical youth organization. There he honed a keen sense of social justice and really learned about the principles of activism pioneered by the civil rights movement. And he began doing his outreach work in Harlem in the 1960s. He helped initiate street academies for young people who had dropped out of school and wanted a chance to resume their education. He also helped set up live-in programs for substance abusers and youth in need of shelter and support. And his powerful experience in New York led him to develop a even more comprehensive approach to helping young people. It wasn't after they dropped out, what can we do before kids drop out? And he recognized that for students to do well academically, they needed to have the full range of their needs met, including those tied to their mental health, their physical well-being, their physical wellness, and everything, most importantly, in terms of their connections to other people. Bill realized that schools were hubs in communities, and they were trusted spaces for many young people and their families. He shared this vision and his new approach to working with young people to anybody who he could meet and anybody who would listen. From Wall Street titans to civil rights leaders to politicians to community organizations, Bill converted them all to this approach. And the culmination of that work came in 1977. So that was the year that Bill founded the first Communities in Schools affiliate, which is our Rotary One in Atlanta. And it was a city and state where he had lots of friends, including Andrew Young and President Jimmy Carter. So from that Atlanta bedrock, a network of affiliates steadily grew up and down the East Coast, across the Southeast, over to the Midwest, up the Southwest, and into the West Coast. And if you look at this next slide, today the Communities in Schools Network is one of the largest child-serving nonprofits in the United States. We're active in 28 states and the District of Columbia, and we provide wraparound services to 1.8 million young people in K-12 schools across the nation. Our affiliate here in Chicago became an independent affiliate in the national network in 1988. And since then, we've supported well over 1 million public school students in Chicago. Our founding in 1988 was important because I should mention that was the same year that some of you might remember the Secretary of Education called Chicago Public Schools the worst school system in the United States. High school graduation rates here were about 50%, and gangs and violence were pretty entrenched. It's Bill Bennett, if you go back to those early days. We knew at CIS of Chicago that we had our work cut out. And during those intervening 35 years, we've used one of Bill Milliken's maxims as our touchstone. It's not programs that positively impact kids, it's positive relationships with caring adults that make the difference. And that has helped Communities in Schools be a key partner to Chicago Public Schools in the district's strong academic turnaround in the last several decades. I should note that the graduation rate right now in Chicago Public Schools is over 80%. So if you talk about in 35 years, we've gone from 50% to over 80% in terms of graduation rate. It's a really an amazing story of what's happening. You might read a lot of different things about the difficulties in Chicago Public Schools. There's many, many positive things that are happening there too. One of the things about the maximum about relationships, sometimes when I say that, talk about relationship building, it seems really simple and obvious, but it really is at the core of everything we do. We build positive relationships with young people, and that enables them to trust us so we can surround them with a community of support to keep them on the path to high school graduation and life success. Our young people in Chicago Public Schools need that help now even more than ever. Just a few statistics. Almost 3/4 live in low income households. 3/4 of Chicago Public School students live in low income households. For a family of 4, that means earning less than $55,000 a year. So I'm sure all of you, any of you who are parents, know how hard it would be to raise a family of 4 on that kind of income. Economic challenges, though, are just one of the obstacles that our young people face and they have to overcome. Since the start of the pandemic, we've seen a really disturbing deterioration in mental health of their young people. The Surgeon General has called it a crisis. Depression and suicide rates have been steadily rising, and I think you can probably figure out, no doubt, driven in the last several years by the social isolation that our young people have faced, that really everybody has faced. Violence also has taken a huge toll for our young people. After declining, violence was declining through the 2010s. Violence and gun crime specifically returned with a vengeance in 2020. Many of the school communities that CIS of Chicago works with struggle with violence. If you visit a school on the west side or the south side and you ask students if they know somebody who has been killed, far too many hands are going to go up. Many of the students have not had the opportunity also to explore a global city that is fabulous as Chicago. I used to think that it was an exaggeration when a school principal would tell me that their students had never seen the lake in person or never been downtown to the Loop. But when I kept hearing that repeatedly at different schools from different principals, I realized that limited opportunity for many of our young people is really a serious issue, and exposure to our city and all that's involved is necessary. CIS of Chicago exists to address these inequities. In a growing number of Chicago public schools, CIS of Chicago places a highly trained staff member to work one-on-one with students who are struggling with their academics, struggling with their attendance, their social skills, and their mental health. We call our team members student supports managers, and they are master's level practitioners in fields like social work, counseling, psychology, and youth development. Their work centers on developing those trusting relationships with each student and working with them to have a personalized plan that will help that student improve in school and develop the life skills they can use inside and outside of school. We've been doing this intensive one-on-one work for many years across schools in Chicago, and we have positively impacted the lives of more than 5,000 young people. These are students who typically face significant obstacles in their personal lives, whether they're a young student who's just arrived to the United States, they've had a parent who's lost a job, or a sibling that might be incarcerated or has been killed. When you're dealing with that kind of stress and trauma, at such a young age for so many of our kids, you need somebody that you can count on and somebody that you can relate to and can offer you good guidance. And that's what our students have in our student supports managers. I'll give you this next slide, highlights Latanya and her work at Webster Elementary School, which is on the west side of Chicago. She is one of our student supports managers in the center. And Webster is located in a community that unfortunately has seen lots of disinvestment over the last 35 or 40 years and has one of the highest rates of violence in the city of Chicago. Latanya is exactly the kind of person that we recruit for our team. She was born and raised a mile from the school that she works in, and she attended one of the local high schools in the city. And for her, it was the death of one of her friends the summer before high school that had a life-changing impact on her. She went on to earn a master's degree in community psychology and a certification in applied behavioral analysis. And she uses that combination of her lived experience and her professional skills to support the students and bond with them. She teaches them skills like deep breathing and refocusing techniques to cope with the stress. She helps them explore their talents, and she develops personal goals for them in school and in life. We know that the work of Latanya and her fellow student supports managers at CIS has an impact because we have the data to back it up. During the last 5 years, 99% of the students that we've provided one-on-one support to have either been promoted or graduated. Fewer than 1% have dropped out, and that's a rate far below our district average. And if that was all that CIS did, that would be powerful, but that's really only half of our story. Another whole wing of our program team works with our school partners to access a wealth of services and resources from an amazing network of community partners that we work with. Some of our partners, community partners, have worked with us for more than 35 years, and they range from large health organizations like the Red Cross to local arts collaboratives who are working in a neighborhood that you might not have heard about but are doing amazing work. And these partners address 6 key areas for us. They fit into these broad categories of academic support, arts and culture, college and career readiness, counseling and supportive guidance, health and wellness, and parent and family engagement. And we have a full-time member in each of these areas to cultivate relationships with organizations that focus their work there and have caring adults and skills. Our team is super entrepreneurial in their approach to growing our network of partners and making sure that our partners have clear learning objectives and are age and culturally appropriate. Our schools count on us connecting them with quality partnerships. We also, to do that, sometimes we provide our partners with training and professional development through a kind of year-long series of trainings that we have around classroom management and curriculum development and leadership development. And I'm proud to share that all of the program connections that we make into schools are at no cost to the schools and the students and their families. So this year, we'll serve about 75,000 students with a whole range of these kinds of programs and services, well more than 2,000 services that will connect into the schools. I'm often asked, with all of the needs of our young people and families, what kinds of programs and resources do schools request the most? And that's actually an easy answer because we get that question a lot and we look at our data and we analyze it from all our schools. We let schools know that community partners offer more than 30 different types of services within these 6 categories. And the options range from field trips to counseling services to literacy work to mental health services. And then we get our schools, each school, to tell us what their top priorities are. And here are some of the top priorities from this year. As you can see there, anti-bullying and diversity tolerance education tops the list of the most requested kind of services from our network of 238 Chicago public schools. And that's been the case for over a decade. That is on the top of the list every year. Unfortunately, bullying is a major challenge in our school. Our schools have increasingly diverse populations, and with the entrenchment of technology and social media, particularly, you see in young people's lives, there's so many ways for bullying and antisocial behavior to happen. So schools are dealing with this day in and day out. We put a lot of time into recruiting and vetting partners who can approach this topic from a variety of angles, including interactive museum visits that reflect on the impact of discrimination, dramatic performances about tolerance, and of course, the traditional classroom seminars that help students resolve conflicts. In contrast to the anti-bullying, essential needs fulfillment is a recent addition to our top school priority list. Prior to the pandemic, our team did limited work in connecting schools to in-kind resources. Things like hygiene products, school supplies, winter coats and gloves were often kind of one-off requests that we would get, that they weren't in huge high demand. But once the pandemic hit in 2020, as Bob mentioned, and so many of our families were impacted by lost jobs, sick family members, shuttered school buildings, we saw the economic fortunes of our families take a hit. We went from providing in-kind donations to a small number of families in 2018, 2019, to getting those supplies to more than 3,000 families in just the spring of 2020. That number spiked to 11,000 families last year that we served with needed resources. And companies and community partners and organizations have really turned to CIS as a conduit to get their products and their goods to the families who need them the most. And I can tell you that even with the economy doing better and unemployment dropping, our families still need so much. They are the ones that are most disinvestment. One of the decisions that we made this year is we have a full-time person right now, we call it a community care specialist, on our team, and her job is to recruit more businesses and nonprofits to work with us to support our schools. And that's a decision we made just in response to everything that we're seeing. And I've talked a lot about the history of CIS of Chicago and what our work entails today. And as CEO, for me, I have to toggle between what we're doing today and where we're going to be 3 years from now and 5 years from now. And back this past June, our board of directors approved a new 3-year strategic plan. And this plan is a call to action throughout the whole plan. It recognizes that our schools have great needs and our students are coming out of the post-pandemic period really thinking about and needing so much. It challenges really our entire organization, from our fundraising team to our HR team to our frontline program team, to scale over the next several years to increase our impact in Chicago and meet that need. And this last chart tells you that the successful execution of this plan for us in the next 3 years will take us from our current 238 Chicago public school partners to as many as 300 by the 2025-2026 academic year, the next couple of years. And that will mean that CIS of Chicago has grown its program footprint more than 8-fold during the past 25 years, positioning it in almost half of Chicago public schools and making CIS one of the most wide-reaching nonprofits promoting student success in the Midwest. 300 is not our end goal. I want to be clear. There are about 650 Chicago public schools. We are the 4th largest school district in the country right now. But 300 is our immediate goal that we have in the next several years, but we want to go beyond that too. I never pass up an opportunity to come and speak to folks about CIS of Chicago and our mission and vision. So I just want to close by inviting you to reach out to me if you'd like to explore partnerships, if you think you have something that can positively impact our students. I also invite you to follow us on social media, LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook and all of those good places, so we can stay connected to you and count you among all our friends. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today.
All right. Well, we've met before the meeting,
Yes, we
so thank
did.
you again for being here. I have a comment and then a question. So you mentioned some people might be surprised that students don't often get out of their own neighborhood to explore. And I mentioned that our community service committee does these CPS grants. And one of the first ones that we awarded was specifically for field trips to get the littles out of their neighborhood. They went on field trips around the city. So that was a grant that we awarded for that reason,
Yes.
because they
Yes.
like had never been across, you know, certain streets in the neighborhood. Okay. So I have a bit of a tangential question. And as we're both in the field of education, I'm genuinely interested in your opinion on grade inflation. So for those who may be unaware, there are schools, I don't know what CPS's policy is exactly, or if it's by district or if it's by school. But for those who are unaware, grade inflation happens when there's a policy at a school or within a district that students cannot earn below a C, that students cannot be held back, that they're passed through. Students are allowed to take assessments more than once in order to get a passing grade. So I was curious about your opinion. I have a very strong opinion about this, but we're not here to talk about me. I'm genuinely interested in you. What role do you believe that grade inflation is playing in the increase of graduation rates in CPS? The Tribune actually just published an article about that. And have you yourself witnessed any instances of grade inflation?
I can answer the second one easily. No, I haven't witnessed that, so that'll get to that. I think people are rightly skeptical of the positive changes in CPS, and particularly graduation rates, which, as you look, it's a number that you can easily measure, because earlier years there was a lot of misuse of data, I think is the fair thing to say, and other school districts, large school districts, have had that. But there have been any number of independent studies that have looked more deeply at what has caused the success in CPS, and I think the numbers are genuine. I would point you to the Stanford Innovation Review, done a couple of years ago, looking at what CPS has done over the years to improve pedagogy, to improve teaching and kind of classroom standards. I'm not a teacher, so I come at this from, as a nonprofit person. But I think while, yes, there is some grade inflation, I think the successes have been genuine. I'm also going to reflect, I'll give you a tangential answer. I'm also a parent, and I have a student who learns differently. And one of the things that I have learned from him is that he might get there in a different way to the end goal, but the idea is that you want to have somebody who masters the content and is proficient in that content. And I think there are all kinds of ways to get to it. And sometimes our traditional boundaries that we have don't support that. And I think there's been a lot of documented studies that show when you hold kids back and the impact that it has on them. I think finally, let me just say, that's sort of more tangential. I think students do well academically, right? Whether you're talking about grade inflation, when they have all the surrounding supports they need. As Bob said, if you can't see the blackboard, you can't learn. If you don't have a safe place to live, it's going to be hard to focus on algebra. If you don't know how to build a relationship with your peers or your teachers, it's going to be hard to navigate through a class and in a school. So lots of times people think of all those as extras in a school, whether it's an arts program or it's exposure on a field trip or those are the life skills that we have to give all of our young people. And finally, I'll just end, like, if we really wanted to improve the graduation rates, we could bring all of Chicago Public School students to Soldier Field and hand them a diploma, right? But our vision at CIS of Chicago is, it's not the diploma that matters, it's the skills that they have, that they've learned in their journey to get there. And that includes academic skills as well as life skills. We can have a whole nother conversation about what schools are required to teach now and how whole they have to be in looking at the whole child, but that would take us longer. So sorry, a roundabout answer to I think a complicated, genuinely complicated topic.
Hi. So you showed a lot of different programs. I was just wondering what you consider to be your most successful program and what impact that has made overall.
Oh, that's a hard one. It's like picking your favorite child, I think, in some cases. I think Bob talked about the vision work that we've done around vision and getting young people glasses. And that started 20 years ago for us. What we did, we started with one clinic working with lens crafters till to the fact that CPS has taken that over and they now provide those exams and glasses for students that need them. So that's been institutionalized. So we took it from the outside and we brought it into the school. I think that's an amazingly successful impact that CIS, along with many others, have had, but really we were a driver in that. I think I'm going to also talk about mental health, and there's a range of mental health. It's a serious issue that we have with our young people and their mental health. They're crying out for support and help, and in various ways through the one-on-one work that CIS does, to our many partners who address that, to we have a program called Youth Mental Health First Aid that teaches adults about how to recognize the signs and symptoms and provide a safety net for our young people. One of the things I think in particular from the pandemic, when I started at community schools more than 20 years ago, mental health had a stigma. People did not like to talk about it. People did not like to fund it. Now that has changed. And I'm proud of that I think that's been across the country. We're just a piece of that, but I think that is really, really important in the long run for our young people.
We have a dictionary project. I've told you about
Yeah.
that. And one of the challenges we face is getting access. Is it getting harder to get access in entry and conduit into the schools because of all the things, the safety issues and everything else that are going on in schools? And it seems like you've overcome that, and maybe it's because you have so many tentacles into the schools.
I think you just can't walk up to a Chicago public school right now and say, hey, here I am, and I have X to give you. I have a program, I have a service, I have something, because they are wary of that. Genuinely, they need to be, I think, sometimes. So that's where I think the role that we have is come to us. There are others, but come to us and we can help navigate you into schools. Our partners trust us. They know that we're going to bring them people who have been vetted, that are real, that are committed. And whether it's a one-time program or a one-time good or service or a semester long, they're counting on us to do that. And I think there are many organizations that work with Chicago Public Schools, but CIS is unique in serving as that conduit. And it is, I think 20 years ago, it was different going into a school than it is right now. So that's what if you know anybody who wants to come to us, even if you want to go to a school that's not a partner of ours, we can help you navigate into those other schools because that's what we do.
Great.
Let me check. No Zoom questions.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, so with that, so I want to thank you for being here today. We have a beautiful Rotary Club of Chicago mug and then some signature cookies from Al's Cookie Mix. His son is autistic, and he started a cookie company so that his son and his friends would have employment once they aged out of the Chicago public school system.
Love that.
And so,
Great. Thank you so
enjoy the
much.
cookies. Thank
Yeah.
you. And with that, we would like to introduce and welcome our visiting international Rotarians today. So, Aiki, if you would like to introduce yourself to everyone. Mhm.
Hello, everyone, every Rotarians. I'm Akihiko Ikai from Tokyo, Japan. You can call me Aki. Aki is A-K-I. A as America, K as kindness, I as international. Aki. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And we don't have any visiting Rotarians in the room, but we do have a visitor today, Wes.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Wes Wadke. I'm a visitor. I was saying to some of the gentlemen at this table, I used to be a member out in West Dundee, I think years ago, back in the day. I was reintroduced to Rotary One by a friend of mine, Paul McConville. Paul and I go back, way back, but I was here last week, and I left here and I gave him a call and I said, this is your second home away from home back in the day. So he said, I wanted me to meet Alita and some of the other members, and I appreciate your hospitality. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any visitors on Zoom?
No.
Nope. Okay, great. All right. And now with that, let's get on to our announcements, all the great stuff. So we love to have you here. So if you ever want to expand your network and do great things in the community, please feel free to go online and look at our application and join the club. We have great upcoming meetings. Next week, we have President Tony Propwinkle, who is coming in to speak with us. So please register for that. We Roscoe and PCs for People and another organization that I know of, BEA, is doing an electronics recycling drive. So all of us, as Jim said earlier this morning, if you can raise your hand and say you have some old electronics at home that you want to get rid of or at your office, and Jim said this morning, if you didn't raise your hand, you were lying. So, but this is a great way for them to get rid of that technology. They will properly dispose of it or donate it to other organizations. So please feel free to reach out to Brittany, reach out to the office if you don't have time to get that information, and get rid of all that old stuff. One of our organizations, Shelterbox started as a offshoot of Rotary. They go into areas when there are disasters and give shelter to people in need. And it's a really great organization that has grown outside of Rotary and become its own independent organization, but it's still very tied to Rotary. So if you've ever wanted to know about Shelterbox and what they do and what they offer, there's a wonderful virtual event on the 16th that you can RSVP for. There is an in-person event in Vegas, I believe, next month if you want to go to Vegas. But also this Thursday we have a stand down coat drive that we've done every year with the district, and they are looking for help and also looking for donations. So if you could reach out to Linda at the district office or to Sarah, and she can get you in touch, Sarah or Trisha in the office. Volunteers are needed this Sunday. The Near South Club is doing a Thanksgiving dinner for seniors. And so if you would like to register online, they need all the help that they can get to help with that. I believe they're delivering and they need help with deliveries. Our own Thanksgiving volunteer event is this coming Wednesday, November 22nd, not tomorrow, but next week, in which I blocked off all the volunteers for Rotary, and I only have 2 people signed up. You're gonna make me look really bad if we don't fill out those other 10 spaces. But we're hoping to prepare and serve the guests that come in for Thanksgiving dinner. We put together 95 dinners that we deliver. We deliver to the seniors in the neighborhood, a couple of homebound seniors, and people who come to the door who don't feel comfortable coming in and sitting with us. But we do give them a meal when they come in to take home with them, maybe one or two, depending on how many we have. And then we sit down and actually feed and serve 40 to 55 people in-house every Wednesday. But next Wednesday we're doing a huge Thanksgiving dinner. And when I say Thanksgiving dinner, it's all the things. I mean, it's a huge dinner, so we need all the help we can get. So please feel free to come through. And our community service scholarship for college students is still open until November 30th. So if you know any college students that go to a school in the city of Chicago proper, please let them know to apply. That's the conference in Vegas in December if you would like to go. And donate to the Rotary Foundation. I know many people say Rotary One has our own foundation, and then there's the Rotary Foundation for Rotary International. Both foundations are very important. The Rotary Foundation funds all the things that we do around the world, and it's so important. Our Rotary One Foundation for the club funds all the service projects and our service work that we do in the city of Chicago and in our International Service Committee. So giving to both is quite important. And download the Ignite app. That's a great way for you to be able to register for events, pay your bill, send out applications to people who say they're interested in Rotary. You can do it directly from your phone. And you can also do great service selfies, which we'll be doing next week, hopefully, with people from the club at dinner. That's the QR code for our gyrator. If you would like to be on the email list and are not, please let Sarah know. We will get you added to that list. And all of our wonderful Rotary One committees, they are always looking for people to be a part and to join. These are the dates that are set, and soon the Job One committee will start to convene. So think about that if you want to be a part of helping students find summer internships over the summer and great employers to employ them. We would love that. These are our upcoming meetings. Every Friday, we have the roundtable where you will probably see Ted and Richard at because they're one of our regulars. Next Tuesday is Tony Prepwinkle and then Dr. Kevin King. And then our wonderful holiday celebration on December 5th. Please let us know if you're not going to be able to make it to the attendance, but we're doing great on that these days. And with that, if everyone could stand so we could, yep. Sure.
Okay, so in addition to our November service project feeding at Thanksgiving next week, we have a December service project. So we will be partnering with the Union League Club Boys and Girls Club on December 19th, which is a Tuesday from 4 to 6. There will be 75 kindergarten through second graders present. So we'll be doing some arts and crafts and feeding them snacks, and just maybe we're giving them books for a gift. The Union League Club Boys and Girls Club is providing a Santa for them. So we definitely need volunteers because me and 75 little kids will result in a nervous breakdown, and Laura will have to be president 1 year early. So please, we need volunteers for this event. It's December 19th. It's a Tuesday from 4 to 6. The location is on 19th Street, about 2 blocks west of Damon. So if you are available and interested that day, we just need adult supervision and to help them put the crafts together. And yes, just to save me from 75 little kids. Okay.
So you can stay and help me do the 4-way test.
Okay. All right. So I will stay up here and do the 4-way test. So if everyone could please stand. All right, this is the 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Number 1, is it the truth? Number 2, is it fair to all concerned? Number 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Number 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And then we need another thing for number 5 is, will it be fun? Right, that's our Yeah, that's our thing.
And with that, we convene the meeting.